What's going on, people? Hope everyone's doing good. What I just played for you there was this little blues composition idea that I came up with in a key of G. I decided to call this little tune G More Blues, and I'm going to go through it a little bit later on in the video, but if you like that example, I made a PDF of it that includes notation and tabs. It'll be available on my website as well as my Patreon, where you'll get all the PDFs on this channel for only $5 a month, but yeah, it could be a fun little tune to play, a little blues thing. If you like it, bring it to your local jam session and start playing it there, alright? But anyway, today I want to start diving into the main topic on this channel of the mind component. If you're new to this channel, first of all, welcome. My name is Derek Plavin, and this is generally like a free online jazz guitar course that I try to have progress and unfold in a logical sort of manner. So if you really want to benefit the most, it'd be a good idea to go back to the beginning and try to watch at least the first 3 or 4 episodes to see what I'm about, and then you can take it from there. But early on, in the 4th video, I believe, I sort of introduced this topic of my mind, body, spirit approach that I like to apply to a lot of my practice, alright? So now we're going to start talking about the mind component. So, like I was just saying, in episode 4, I gave a complete sort of overview of everything when it came to the idea of using a mind, body, spirit kind of a model in what we may do, and I went through all the individual components and already gave a general idea on how I may think specifically about something like the mind component. And in addition, I also discussed some things in other videos as well that may specifically pertain to the mind also, but I'm not going to do a whole rambly recap on anything right now, so try to keep it brief for a little intro. For me, when it comes to the mind component, the primary word that really first comes to mind is application. And from a musical perspective, really mainly dealing with things having to do with harmony, but it could be other things as well. And when it comes to really understanding the mind component, I think it could be helpful to make sure to be able to clearly define how exactly you can see it as a skill set that could be developed tangibly, because when it comes to the mind component, I don't think that type of thing can really be always so obvious, especially compared to something like with the body component, because with the body, it's a lot more clear because we're working on the ability to execute a musical idea, working on our technique and to get it correct and sound good, and that's very clearly like a skill, almost like an athlete.
Kobe!
And with something like that, that type of work really never ends with any sort of skillful endeavor, because you're either going in one or two directions. You're either maintaining or progressing, or you're not working and you're regressing. That's just how it is. But with something like the mind, we can learn things and what they are and how to use and apply them and whatnot, but unless we forget them, once we learn them, it's kind of like, all right, well, we know them. So is that really like a skill, or are we just like acquiring bits of knowledge? So where the skill component, I think, comes in is really more, well, it could help you compose, but that's not necessarily being done in a spontaneous situation. So in a jazz scenario, for instance, when you're improvising, whether you're soloing or comping or whatever, you got to be able to think on your feet, and it's more like you're the gunslinger and being able to pull out ideas quickly and accurately and confidently and have them sound good, right?
3, 2, 1! Land!
So the body, you're working more like you're developing the ability to just hit a button and have the idea come out, where with the mind, you're practicing things that get you better at, like, all right, can I whip this out in the middle of some musical thing? So I'm rambling, but I think that could be really helpful to realize with the mind and how you develop it. All right, so I have several different things that I might do in my practice that I'd say are primarily working out the mind, but I'm really just going to show you one simple little concept to start it off today. I don't want to overload you, and this is something that I'm sure some of you guys are already familiar with, but this could be very helpful. But there's definitely still a lot of other important things to get to in other videos to come as well. All right, so really, this is all I want to talk about today. When it comes to harmony, and we learn any sort of fundamental harmonic thing, whether it's like a chord or an arpeggio, it could be a triad or a four-note chord, it can even be like a scale, pentatonic, major, whatever. While we originally learn whatever that harmonic thing is, conventionally for like whatever it is, so if I learn that this is a major 7 or like a major 9 chord, that's what I'm learning that shape as and what that chord is, alright? But for any sort of harmonic thing, we can also simply view it as a harmonic structure that we could use or see as an upper structure to any possible bass note. And we can see if we move a structure around chromatically through all 12 keys and we go through all the intervals, what kind of viable options does that sound give us over other potential bass notes, alright? So say I do something like a major triad, alright? For the guitar, it's really helpful to utilize like an open string as a consistent bass note. So if I have an E bass note like this, and then I put a E triad on top of it, that's the conventional representation of this harmonic structure, because we're basically just doubling up the root note in unison, alright? But what if I move this around, okay? So if I play an F major over the E bass note, basically those notes intervallically over an E give us the flat 9, the 11, and the minor 6. So it's kind of like a Phrygian sound. I guess it can also work over Locrian as well. So this is the type of thing where if you aren't familiar with your intervals and a little bit of your theory and what combinations of intervals over a particular bass note give you whatever harmony, then that's going to be important to learn in order to understand what you can get out of this, alright? But you can move things around through all 12 keys, and depending on what the thing is that you're moving, sometimes you'll get a lot of viable options in maybe even all 12 keys. But if you have something like a 4 or 5 note chord and you kind of move that up and down, not all those options are going to be things that are really going to be useful. But the exploration and to find the good things is important, alright? So that's what you do. So I'm kind of glossing over it, but that's because I want to show you another example of what you can do with this, alright? So instead of using triads or a 4-note chord, it could be cool to explore dyads or a constant sort of harmonic interval, just 2 notes over a constant bass note and move it up and down. So the interval that I decided to go through today is an augmented 5th or minor 6. It's the same thing, okay? And this is really cool because it has both of those properties, whether we see it as a sharp 5 or a flat 6, and the inversion of this sort of minor 6 is a major 3rd. That's also interesting for me to consider when we kind of yield these harmonies we're about to explore, alright? So the thing to do if you're trying this with any new harmonic structure is write it down. That's what I did. This way you have all the functions potentially in front of you, alright? So we're going to start by playing it over the same bass note. If everything is going over E, literally all we have is an E and I guess you would call it a B sharp if it's a 5th, but a C. Alright? So it's really simply just a augmented 5th or minor 6, like I said before. And the less information you have, the more possible things you could see that as. Like that could work as an Aeolian, that could work as over a augmented major chord, it could work over a dominant, so it's very interesting to recognize that. Alright, so let me move it up now to the flat 2. So basically if we were over here, well we were here, but now I'm moving it up to this, alright? So this interval over an E bass note, we have the flat 9, I'm sorry, that's the flat 9, and the 13th, so that's your classic 13 flat 9. So that often works obviously as a dominant chord. Doesn't have the 7th or the 3rd, but it doesn't matter. It's good to know that if you play this interval flat 2 up from the root, you'll get that sort of 13 flat 9 sound. This could also be that mode from the melodic minor, the mixolydian with the natural 6 in it. Okay, let's go to the natural 2. Okay, so this is just the 9 or the 2 and then the flat 7, alright? So this could be used almost as like a dominant 9. you don't have to see it as like a suspended if you don't want to. You could, it just doesn't have the third in it. Alright, let's move it up to the flat third. Okay, so this over the E gives us the flat third and the major 7. So this is your classic minor major 7 sound, alright? Really good to know that. Let's move it up again. We move it up to the major third, we have the major third, and we have the root. We don't have the 5th, but this is your classic major sound, which also could work over dominant, alright? That's good to be aware of that as well. Alright, the sharp 4, or flat 5, we have here. We have the 11, I'm sorry, that's not the sharp 4, this is the 4th, excuse me. So, we have the 11, and we have the flat 2. So this could be like a Phrygian thing, it could be a Locrian thing, that's what I'm saying. You have different sort of harmonic possibilities. That's one reason why we could say, at least harmonically here, less can be more sometimes. Alright, so now we're at the sharp 4, flat 5. So we have that note, the sharp 11, I guess we could say, flat 5, and then we have the 9. So this could be used as a Lydian sound, also like Lydian dominant. Doesn't have the third, but that's another good one to be aware of. Locrian natural 2, it could be. Let's move up, because I'm rambling. Alright, so now we're on the 5th. So what do we have? We have the 5th and the flat 3rd. So this is your classic basic minor triad, which makes sense. It's just your root 3rd and 5th. Yeah, this is the root, the 3rd. Alright. Next, we're at the sharp 5 or the flat 6, which is what our actual interval is too. So here we have the sharp 5, flat 6, like I just said, and the 3rd. So this is basically an augmented triad, alright? So obviously augmented is symmetrical, that should make sense there. Okay, now we're at the 6. Well, this is cool because this is basically an inversion of an A major triad. If the E was the root or the 5th of the A, this would be the major 3rd, and that would be the root, okay? So while this is very conventionally a triad, in second inversion, I always like to say that I think the ear always hears all chords or harmony as root position chords, or even if it's an inversion, and that's what makes the sound of the inversion unique. So if we analyze this as a E chord, we'd have the 6 and the 4. So it's almost like an E sus 4 with like a 6 in it, or an E6 sus 4, which is basically just an inversion. Alright, now we're at the flat 7, and we have the flat 7, and we have the flat 5. So this could also be like a Lydian dominant type of sound. It could be a half diminished as well. And it's good to notice that if this sort of combination can be either one of those sounds, like a Lydian dominant, or like a Locrian, or like a minor 7 flat 5 sound, like a 2 chord in a minor key, then you can sort of see the relationship between those two sounds, and therefore maybe they could be more easily substituted. So if I'm in, say, like A minor, instead of playing B half diminished to E 7 flat 9 to A minor, I can play that, maybe I'll use that, the sound substitutes well nicely, and when you see something like this, it shouldn't be a surprise. Alright, so now, one more. We're at the major 7, and we get literally the major 7 and the 5th. So this is basically like a major 7 chord, but it doesn't have a 3rd in it, and that has a nice sound to it as well. Less is more. Okay, so if you write those types of things down, and then you have a list, you can kind of apply this stuff to different situations, and you can get a really nice effect harmonically by essentially consistently playing like only this interval over different root notes, and you'll sort of convey a whole harmonic idea with mostly that interval. So that's what I did with my little blues composition. So to kind of go through it quickly, if I'm in the key of G, I'm kind of doing that interval, like what you heard me do in the beginning, except for something at the very end. It's all minor 6 intervals. So, and I'm kind of alternating with these different like bass lines and patterns as well. So if I start on the 1 chord in G, which is your G7, I play this. Okay, so I'm playing that interval from the 2nd degree and the 3rd. And I have my little list. From the 2nd, I get like a dominant 9. It's the 9 and the 7, no 3rd. And then I get what would give you a basic G major chord just from the major 3rd, which also works over dominant. So I'm kind of like mixing these notes up and, getting a more complete sound with 2 simpler structures initially. Alright, so that's what I'm doing. Oh, and then the other one, that's from the flat 7, and that's like your Lydian dominant sound. That's kind of like another variation, I suppose, on the dominant, and it kind of creates more interest. So all of those three relationships to the root, playing that interval from the 2, the major third, and the flat 7, they all give or contribute to like a dominant sound in some sort of way, so you can kind of mix and match them, and the consistency of the same interval, I guess, gives some cohesiveness to it, or some interest, you know, repetition to the musical mind, even if it's harmonic repetition. Alright, so then I'm on the 4 chord, and I have basically the same thing from the 2 and then the 3rd. I don't do this there, but that's the same relationship. So then back to the 1. Now, this is cool. So for my turnaround part, instead of like a 2-5-1 or a 5-4-1, if I'm talking about the bass notes for my cadence, it's flat 6. You can think of it either as like E flat major, like a flat 6 major, to like a 5-7, and then your 1. Pretty common cadence. It can also be an E flat 7 to the 1, alright? So this is what I'm playing. For the E flat, I'm going, okay, and what do I have over an E flat root note? This is from the sharp 11, which kind of gives me that Lydian sound, the sharp 11 and the 9, so that kind of works over a major chord. The Lydian always works good in that situation as well, the flat 6. Okay, so yeah, Lydian sound. Then this, from the sharp 5, that's an augmented sound. That kind of can be like a Lydian thing as well, Lydian augmented, or just another variation on major. And then that's in the major 7, which is like a major 7 sound without a third. So all those sort of relationships to this note contribute to an overall E flat major sound in a very unique way. And then over the D, I play from the major 3rd, which gives me a major triad, and then flat 7, which is a Lydian dominant, and then from the root, I just kind of double it up, root and sharp 5, so it's an augmented. That works good on a 5 chord. So these ideas perfectly still fit within the harmony, but it sounds very hip with these sort of like contrapuntal sort of things with 2 notes at a time, alright? And then at the end, when I land on the 1 chord, I play those again. Then this note, this is literally the only 6 that is not a minor 6. It's a major 6, but it's diatonic to the key. Okay, but that's the only one in the whole thing. So I go, and that's it, alright? So I'll just play through the whole form, and then we'll leave it at that, alright? So it's like... I do different rhythm there. Messing it up. Alright? So it's a fun little thing to play. And then it's a blues, which is always nice to blow over. So there you go. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to leave that there today. I definitely felt like I was rambling and not articulating a lot of that well today, but hopefully after I edit it and everything, hopefully this will come through and help a lot of people out. So if anyone has any questions or anything they want to say, please put it in the comments. I'm here to help. And in the next episode,
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
I'm most likely going to continue discussing this topic, the mind component, but, you know, talking about other important things, not just this. This is really just an intro for you to appreciate. But got some good things coming up, so don't worry, I'll keep you posted, alright? So if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like and consider becoming a subscriber, as well as a contributor as well to Patreon. And if you think anyone else would enjoy the content, please share it with them as well. And I'll see you guys in episode 94.
Swinging and playing the blues. That's what we about.
I try to help you.